Just let me know when it's live, Chris. I'm live. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Q&A on my YouTube channel. And I have my awesome and amazing co-host, Kevin.
I'm back. Okay, I didn't get that. Hello, everybody.
And we are going to be doing a Q&A with Abluemoon88 and DietDrKelp.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Good to see you.
So, yeah.
Also, hi, Kevin.
Hi. What is your question?
Sorry, I had to do it at least once.
We are so glad that we get to do a Q&A with both you and Sydney Kelp, especially since you guys did recently collaborated for The Princess and the Cowherder.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That was so fun.
What are you talking about? Strictly business, zero fun.
Oh, yeah, you're right. There's no fun. We had zero fun with that project.
Okay. So, shall we get started for this Q&A?
Let's
Sure.
do it.
All right. So, here's my first question for you both. How did you both get into voice acting? And how did you become interested in voice acting? And what inspired you to pursue voice acting?
Go ahead, Kelp.
Oh, we're starting with me. All right. So my story kind of began way back when I used to do a lot of like voice impressions of characters based on just cartoons I watched, games I played, all that sort of stuff. I mean, it really did start with Sonic, honestly, because Jason Griffith, his voice is Sonic and Shadow and everything. It was one of the voices that I started, imitating a lot. And then, it went into other places like Call of Duty Zombies with Nikolai Belinsky, and it just kind of gradually went on. So then I got into college, and, it was in the midst of COVID times, and I was wondering, what's something I want to try? What's something I haven't done in a long time? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try doing some voice acting or like auditioning for voice acting. So I got in a few projects, and some of them were Sonic related, and then as a result, things just spiraled in, and then I ended up in Revo. I further progressed in there to become a mod and become the casting director, and it's been a lot of fun. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. I love it.
Wonderful. How about you, Sydney?
So I've always been interested in voice acting since I was a kid. So I'd watch Looney Tunes, and I remember my dad pointing out Mel Blanc, who's the actor of the majority of the character in this. So I've always been fascinated with it. And then fast forward until college, and I had a boss tell me, hey, you should look into voiceovers. And so I started taking classes, and then I saw that Sonic Villains put out a casting call, and I thought to myself, well, if I just might as well try. And I got in, and so it kind of snowballed since, and now I have my own equipment. I have my own home studio now, and it's just been amazing, and I hope to do this for the rest of my life.
Wow. That's amazing. That's really amazing that that it just starts somewhere, when you get interested in something, especially voice acting, and then and you and both of you gradually you guys do such an amazing job.
Oh, thanks.
Kelp is amazing. I always love Kelp.
You praising me? No, you're amazing, Sydney.
Oh my gosh. Any chance I have to tread the boards with Kelp, I'm going to do it. So awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, Kevin, do you have a question for Sydney and Kelp?
Yeah. How did you get into Sonic, and how did you get into the community?
Okay. Sydney, you want to go first on this one?
Sure. So I remember identifying a Sonic game. My first Sonic game that I played, I was probably about 10 to 13 years old. And then I started watching Sonic X, and then I got really into the lore. So I got really invested in the characters. And it never was a phase. I've loved the characters ever since. And then but I didn't properly get into the community until I started voice acting. How about you, Kel?
So for me, I grew up playing the games. It started with the first game I played in the series was Sonic Heroes, and I played it on the PS2. And which I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, that's the worst version. It has the most bugs and everything. Yeah, I know. I was a kid. I didn't get it. But so I got started with Heroes, and as a result, I really got into Sonic. I started playing a lot more of the games. I kind of joined at the time when we were going through some of the worst hits of Sonic with like 06 and, the dark ages, what people considered. But, to me, it was always fun. Like, I love 06. I loved 06, even in its buggy mess of a state. And then, of course, Unleashed came out, and Unleashed was just my favorite of the whole entire thing. I love Unleashed. Ask anyone, and you know that my favorite Sonic game is Unleashed. That's just how it is. And then when it came to getting involved in the community, I really didn't get involved in, like, the wider Sonic community until I started doing voice projects. I got cast in a thing with Cashlin Snow, and it wasn't Sonic related. It was a Disney project, and I got cast in a completely different role. And then I saw Cashlin did Sonic content, and I was like, hey, if you ever need someone to do some voices for, like, say, Shadow, Sonic, Silver, I'd be happy to try out. And so she had me audition for Shadow. I got in as Shadow, and then the rest is history. And I got involved with Revo and all that sort of stuff. And I really started to, get connected more with the Sonic community.
Yes. Sonic Revolution is like, it brings a lot of Sonic fans together. And when you think about it, like, I just, the Sonic franchise has like all these different mediums, and everyone has like their different stories of how they got into the Sonic franchise. And I think that's what's makes it have its charm, I'm pretty sure we can all agree. That's why but that's quite interesting that you guys gone into the Sonic franchise from different mediums as a whole.
The Sonic community is awesome. I really enjoy it.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Hey. Ooh, here's my next question. Are there any professional voice actors who inspired you to become a voice actor yourself? If so, can you name them?
Well, if I had to say off the top of my head, two of the biggest inspirations that I've ever had in voice acting is probably Jason Griffith and Fred Tatasciore. Jason Griffith, obviously well known for being the voice of Sonic and Shadow. I did impressions of him at a young age, his Sonic and his Shadow, and that was just a huge inspiration. And then Fred Tatasciore, the voice of Nikolai Belensky, who I actually got the chance to meet and share my impression of his character with him, and he loved it. It was like a full circle moment when I got to meet him, because he was like one of my childhood, like, I idolized this man's voice as Nikolai, because that was a game that I played for many, many years, and I've grown up playing those games, and it was just so great to get to meet that person. And then, of course, Pete Capella. I mean, need I say more? Pete Capella to me has always been the perfect voice of Silver. He captures the character so well, and getting to come full circle with him and Revo Online last year, being able to host the Pete Capella panel. As the Revo voice of Silver, getting to host a panel with the official voice actor for Silver from 06, it was just a dream come true. So I have to say Jason Griffith, Fred Tatasciore, and Pete Capella.
Awesome.
For me, it definitely is Mel Blanc and Colleen O'Shaughnessy. Those two really broke barriers in the voiceover world and acting world in Hollywood, and they're just so inspiring, masters of their craft, and if I could even just have a grain of what their abilities are, that would be a dream come true. I would say those two are my inspirations.
Wow, that's awesome, Sydney. Because when I hear your Tails voice, it really does feel it's heavily inspired by Colleen's Tails.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah, I have to agree on that.
Oh, I love her take on Tails.
I can't even name a better Colleen impression than yours, Sydney. Like you, every time I think of Tails, I just think of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I will take that as a very high compliment. Colleen O'Shaughnessy is a master of her craft.
If I may add to that, just for both of you, like whenever you voice and play the character, it really does feel like you are talking and listening to the character, which makes it so great.
Oh, that's a huge compliment.
That's a big compliment. I'm proud that that's the case.
Yeah, it's so great. That makes me happy. That means we're doing our job, Kelp. Yes.
Yes, it does. It means we're doing something right.
Yes.
Like, I totally agree because I remember, Sydney, that you mentioned that when Ryan and Pete did that skit at the Rebel in Person this year, like you literally told us you were looking for Kelp and Andrew.
Oh no, I was literally like every time I hear that recording, I'm like, is that not Andrew and Kelp? Is that not them?
I feel the same way about Tails. It's like whenever I hear Tails, I mean, aside from Colleen, I'm like, okay, where's Sydney at?
Oh. That's a compliment. Thank you.
But that's really cool that that those voice actors are like your huge inspiration. Like for you, Kelp, I can definitely see that Pete Capello was a huge inspiration for your Silver voice. That means you are doing such an amazing job as Silver, because if I hear Pete, he's like you're basically the mirror, you know. Like if I hear Pete, I hear Kelp.
Kelp. I hope you know I'm a huge fan of your Silver. Oh, good. Oh my.
Thanks,
gosh.
Sydney. Well, you know, I'm a huge fan of your Blaze. I mean, it's just every time I look at a role when it comes to Silver, typically what'll happen is if I'm auditioning for Silver, or if someone asks me if they like to be say like, hey, can you be Silver in my thing? I've seen what you do in Revo. You're great. And I look at their content and I'm like, is Sydney cast as Blaze? Is Sydney in there as Blaze? And then I see that Sydney's as Blaze and I'm like, done, sign me up.
I am the same way. I'm so proud of the chemistry we've built between Silver and Blaze, because I'm the exact same way. That's the magic words. Is like, Kelp is Silver. Do you want to be Blaze? I say done. Yes, I'm doing that.
It's immediate.
It's an immediate yes.
And just adding to that, it's just so much fun to bounce off the personification of your characters too.
Oh, thank you.
Oh yeah.
Kelp is a champion. I've thrown so many curveballs at him in Revo, and he just takes it like a champ.
Well, you equally take it as a champ. I mean, it's just great. Just the chemistry we've built with these characters and being able to act off one another has just been so much fun.
Oh, it has been. Oh my gosh. So I could gush about Kelp all day, so I apologize. I totally derailed.
Same for me, but with Sydney.
Oh no, you're all good. Oh, looks like we got questions from the audience.
Ooh.
Okay, here's a question from _prankster dubs. Question for Kelp. What's the first project that started you and Ultimate's rivalry?
I knew this was going to get asked at some point.
Let's hear it.
So, for those of you that don't know, which I'm surprised, I would be surprised if you didn't, because it's pretty standard that wherever I go, there's always mention of a rivalry between me and another voice actor named the Ultimate Voice Actor. So that rivalry actually started. It wasn't even like a project we were working like together on specifically. It was mainly when I got casted as Shadow for Cashlin's project, I joined Cashlin's project server. And I introduced myself. I was kind of like, hey guys, I'm new here. I'm excited to join along and be voicing Shadow. And everyone was pretty nice and polite. And then comes this guy. Ultimate comes in and he says, "Wait, he's Shadow? Who's he? Who's this guy?" Because in his mind, he should have been Shadow. And it's like, I was nothing but nice and introductory, and this man comes at me with like, "Why is he Shadow? What?" And I'm just like, I just auditioned, man. What do you want? And so it just kind of blossomed from there. And every time we audition for roles, because we audition for the same roles, Shadow and Silver, we're naturally competing with one another all the time. So we kind of played off of it and became rivals, and it's created some playful banter. I love Ultimate like a brother. He's a great guy, and I have nothing but respect for what he does, and his voice acting is immaculate, just as I hope that my own is. So, the rivalry bit is fun, and we are rivals to the bitter end, but he's definitely a good friend of mine.
One of these days, you all are going to meet each other. It's gotta happen.
Eventually.
Yes, I already had a feeling someone was going to ask about it, but that's pretty interesting how now the people tuning in know how this rivalry started.
Yeah. The famous rivalry.
Oh, here's another one. Here's another audience question from Dino Kaiju. I have a question for both Sydney and Kelp. What was the journey for you two looking the correct voices for your well-known roles like Tails, Blaze, Shadow, and Silver?
Sydney, you want to go first on this one?
Oh, sure. So my journey on kind of getting the impressions down, is that right?
I think that's what it sounds like, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So when I first started getting into the Sonic community, I was asked like, "Oh, hey, I'm looking for a Tails actor." I was like, "Oh, I'll try." And so I started listening to tapes of Colleen O'Shaughnessy's Tails, and I just went over and over and over again. And I was surprised, like, "Oh my gosh, I think I can hit that range." And so it kind of developed from there. So whenever and it's kind of a similar thing with Blaze. I had somebody say, "Hey, do you want to do Blaze?" I was like, "Oh, I'll try." And then so what I do when I'm asked to do what's called a voice match is I'll listen to the original actor. Usually they'll give an actor for me, "I want you to sound like them." And so then I'll listen to it, and I'll listen to it over and over and over again, and start analyzing the different placements, their pitches, their prosody, just trying to get to pretty much dissect the voice apart and then rebuild it back together with my own voice. So, for example, Blaze, it has a very similar pitch range to mine, but it's a very forward placement. It's much more breathy. She's very articulate. Tails is much more nasal. He's a little harsher. He has a little more grunge in his voice. And then Colleen O'Shaughnessy, she always has this kind of descending fall whenever he speaks. And then Blaze has a very specific sing-song quality to her voice. So I usually kind of pick apart those things. And that's how I've kind of led up to this. And then whenever I have to record for Blaze and Tails, I'll listen to the actors again. And then I have what's called a kinetic cue. And so before I record, I'll usually say a couple lines that locks me back into that voice, and then I start recording. Does that make sense?
Oh, it actually does. It's really good that you practice, listening to it a lot you will eventually learn to adjust your voice to that pitch, and you do such a phenomenal job as both Tails and Blaze, Sydney.
Thank you. They're my two favorite characters, so that means a lot. Thank you. How about you, Kelp?
All right. Yeah, it's interesting to hear the story of how you found your Blaze and your Tails, because they're just so iconic the way they are. As for me, when it comes to Silver, Silver is probably the one that's easiest to answer because with Silver, I have what I do with each of the characters that I'm going to voice, regardless of who it is and who's voiced them in the past. I look at the character themselves and see, okay, what is this character like? What's their personality? What really captures the essence of this character? And so with Silver, when I looked at the voice actors for Silver, like all of his different voice actors, I just kept going back to Pete Capella. When they cast Pete Capella as Silver, he just captured something about the character that was just so great, so unique, and it established the baseline for what this character was and who he was. And to me, every time they've recast Silver in the recent games and all that sort of stuff, it never managed to really capture the same kind of depth of character as Pete Capella did. And I mean, part of that is because Silver was only really a major character when Pete voiced him. In a lot of the projects that Pete was involved with Silver, he was a primary character and a focus of a lot of stories. I mean, you look at Sonic 06, he's the third playable character. And then Sonic Rivals, he's one of the main storylines. So it's like Pete Capella was really the one who got the most sort of essence of like stuff to work with Silver. So for me, it was always going to be some form of Pete Capella. But when I, started doing it, I figured I could do just straight up Pete Capella, like this world was devastated before I was born. Or I could add a little bit more to it. And with Revo specifically, Cashlin asked me to pitch it up a little bit to make it a little higher pitch, to kind of give him a bit more of a teenager kind of vibe, I guess. And, that really kind of grew into its own to where now I have, I have the Silver that everybody knows and loves. It's the guy who's, he's very energetic and optimistic, but he's also, he can be serious when he needs to be because it's no use. So it's definitely been a thing that I've evolved with. And then Shadow, he's an interesting one because with Shadow, I've never felt that one voice truly captured all of Shadow. I felt that it was kind of a tie between two. Shadow's debut in Adventure 2 with David Humphrey, I thought he really nailed like the kind of essence of the character in terms of like calmly talking and, he's kind of smooth talking. He's, not so edgy all the time. I mean, he's edgy, he's Shadow, but he's not like, super edgy all the time. Whereas when it comes to the power lines like Chaos Control or Chaos Spear, Chaos Blast, he didn't really have that kind of power that was needed. And that's where Jason Griffith, I felt, really excelled in giving Shadow that, powerful, like, Chaos Control and that sort of stuff where he can do it just to show the power of Shadow. And so I kind of mixed the two because originally my first attempts at Shadow were strictly Jason Griffith. But I learned over the course of voicing him that, Shadow's a nuanced character. There's a lot to him, and I wanted to bring that out. So I did more of a Humphrey and worked it with my Jason Griffith until I reached the Shadow that I use today.
Wow.
I think you said something that was really key with like doing impressions of characters is that you have to capture the spirit of the character.
Mm-hmm.
The impression can't stand by itself. You can sound like SpongeBob, but if you can't act like SpongeBob, it's not SpongeBob.
Exactly.
So,
it's the key to really, what I would say as advice is the key to really doing a character correctly is to capture the essence of who that character is. Regardless of whether you're doing an impression or doing your own thing, you have to capture what the character is all about. And that's the big thing that I searched for when finding my voices for Shadow and Silver.
That's amazing, Kelp. Like, I kind of liked your explanation for like Shadow, that you pretty much combine like two of the voice actors where you captured Shadow's like calm tone, but you also show Shadow's like power with your, and you combine it, and that's very clever to capture the essence of Shadow, because that's who Shadow is as a character. And and you do such an amazing job doing Shadow.
Well,
with
thank
that.
you. I appreciate that. Of course, Ultimate wouldn't agree with you, but
Ooh, okay. Oh, this one? Oh, yes. Here's the next question I have for you guys. Tell us about the whole process of the Princess and the Cowherder comic dub and the behind the scenes of how you guys brought that comic to life that was done by Gabs and Megu art.
That I gotta hear, because that was so well done.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
well, I will pass the torch on to Sydney, the project lead on the Princess and the Cowherder for this one.
Oh gosh, well thank you. Oh, so long story short, so I actually had the chance to go to Japan and experience the Tanabata festival, and I just fell in love with that story. And then a few years later, Gabsam and Megu Art came out with their comic, and I fell in love with that comic because it just combined my favorite things. I have these Sonic characters doing this amazing, this beautiful legend. And so I remember messaging Gabsam. I was like, "Can I please buy your comic?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's not for sale since it's a fan comic," which is totally understandable. And then fast forward to last year, I got to meet Gabs in person, and she was so sweet. She gave me a copy, and I treasure that copy of that comic. That's one of my prized possessions now. But I have to do something with this comic, and I was kind of mulling around in my mind. And so I reached out to Sergeant Gerbil, the video editor, and I said, "Hey, is this doable?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And so I reached out to Gabs and Meguar, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And so, and that's how that project got started. So yeah, it was so rewarding, and thank you for everybody for being so supportive with this project. We worked on it for a long time, and it's just so special to me.
Yeah,
I will say this: Gabs is an absolute sweetheart in real life. I'm sure you can vouch for that too, Sydney.
100%.
Oh,
The
100%.
best.
And in terms of my experience with Princess and the Cowherder, so like I didn't really know much about Tanabata, but I obviously know Gabsam and her talent as an artist. And when I first saw the comic itself, it was just it's so beautiful. Just not only from the perspective of all the artwork, it's also just the story that it tells, where it wraps these characters of the Sonic universe into this cultural legend. And it really is a way that can spread this culture to people who may be unfamiliar with it, like me. And so it was brilliantly done to introduce me to the culture and to Tanabata as it was. And so when Sydney asked if I wanted to voice Silver / Hikoboshi in this comic, I was of course gonna say yes, because I mean it's number one, it's Sydney, and number two, the story is amazing, and it was just a ton of fun to record for this project. I mean, we had so much improv behind the scenes that you don't get to hear in the actual comic itself, but it was so much fun to do. And I think it was like an hour-long recording session, and there were so many moments that were hilarious. But we they don't all make the floor for the comic, because I mean, when making the story as good as it can be, some things are going to get cut. But in the end, I'm so proud of the way everything turned out, and it's quickly become probably one of my favorite projects that I've ever worked on.
Oh, thanks, Kelp. Yeah, I feel so bad. So Kelp was a champion, so we did a lot of improv together. So Hikoboshi and Orihime. Together when they were reunited, like we tried a whole bunch of different things of them, like when they were reunited, or like when they were talking and stuff. But unfortunately, we had to cut it just due to storytelling. But Kelp delivered. It was all amazing. He did a wonderful job throughout the whole thing. I wish I could have told everybody everything.
Well, as did you. You were amazing as Orihime, and it was great.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Gabs and Megu they're the real stars. If I could just like spread the word about their work, like I've done my job.
Of course.
Such an amazing job.
And for those in the audience who may have not seen it, go watch The Princess and the Cowherder. The comic dub is out now on Abluemoon88's channel.
Yes, go see it.
Yes, we actually did an early viewing of it in the audience request for Cartoon Nights in the Revo Discord server, which of course we did ask you, Sydney. It was Goken's idea. It's like, hey, why don't we like really showcase this to the to the audience during Cartoon Nights intermission? And Sydney, you were just all for it.
Oh, I was honored, nothing but honored. So thank you so much for that opportunity. So everybody come see Cartoon Nights. They're so much fun.
Absolutely.
Yes. Kevin, do you have a question?
Yeah. So I know we talked about like the voices of your character, but how did you come up with the personification of your characters?
That's a tough one. Sydney, you want to go first?
Sure. So I think when diving into characters, when doing stuff like Revo, you have to really do a deep dive, especially with improv, because you have to make on-the-fly decisions all the time. If your character is asked, "How do you like your eggs?" you have to respond. And so, for example, and I think so for Blaze and Tails, I had to really deep dive into what makes them them. Why? Always asking, why did they act this way? Why would they react this way? What? Not only what the reaction would be, but understanding the motivation. So, like for example, Tails and Blaze, they have similar pasts, but they're in many ways complete opposites. Like Tails and Blaze were severely bullied in their lore, and that really affects them today. But Tails uses it to empathize with people, to be kinder, and to bring people in to understand them, and uses it to strengthen him. While Blaze is almost a different take on it, where it really kind of consumed her, and she has a lot of self-loathing and a lot of trauma that she carries. And so like understanding the motivation of the characters is key, and that's how I tackled Tails and Blaze, especially for Sonic Revo.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those things where, you know, when I'm looking at the characters, with their personifications, I look at what they are like in the games and in media. And, you know, I kind of see, okay, what kind of makes this character tick? So, for instance, Shadow the Hedgehog started out as this very tragic character. He is probably one of the most traumatized characters in Sonic lore, because of all of the things that have happened to him. And he has every single reason to want to hate the world, but he doesn't, because of a promise he made to his one friend who was sadly taken from him too early. And he wants to fulfill that promise to be the good in the world that Maria saw in it. He wants to see the best in people. And for me, Shadow has always been this character who, you know, despite being rough around the edges and being a very serious character, he does what he does for his own reasons because it's the right thing to do. But he's not going to be the kind of person like Sonic to always, you know, take the heroic route. He is a bit of a darker character. He does his own things. He's more prone to being violent than Sonic, because sometimes what language works better than violence? Especially with Eggman. Eggman is a character who's, you know, just evil beyond reason and will not stop being evil, and Sonic always lets him get away, which pretty much frustrates Shadow to no end, which I can understand why, because, you know, this man constantly causes problems for the world, and Sonic is continuing to let him go, continuing to, you know, let him do these things. Whereas Shadow, I feel like if Shadow had his way of handling it, he would handle the problem in his own way by, you know, ending the problem. Whether that be, you know, jail or whatnot, he would make sure that the Doctor would no longer have the freedom to do all these kind of things. Meanwhile, Silver, when it comes to Silver, he's always been this very optimistic character, but to a fault. He's so overly optimistic that he sometimes misses the things that are going to cause him trouble. He always keeps fighting for a future that seems to always be ruined. No matter what happens, there is some kind of event that will cause his future to end up terrible. And this dude doesn't stop. He keeps going back to the past to try and figure out a way to fix it, even if he's the only one who's trying. And he won't give up. He doesn't give up. He refuses to see any other light than that there is a chance. And, you know, that's one of the strongest traits of Silver, is that he is so optimistic. But, you know, he is naive. He doesn't know everything about the world and about, you know, things, because he's so used to everything being, you know, doom and gloom. He's so used to all that he knows in the future and being alone that, you know, how do you go to these places where, you know, people are optimistic all the time, things are beautiful, and all you know is ruin. So it's not going to come easily to you. And clearly, when it came to 06, when his character there, he was easily manipulated by Mephiles because of the fact that he's naive. He doesn't know anyone else. So what reason would he have to not trust Mephiles? What reason would he have to not do it? If it's a chance to save his future, of course he's going to jump at the chance. So when creating their personality, I really tried to, you know, respect the origins of these characters and what came before, but I also added in my own little tidbits just for fun, like Silver being obsessed with breakfast foods, and maple syrup is a complete inside joke of Revo, but it is a funny inside joke that I have very much enjoyed. And then Shadow, him having Charmy as a therapist in Revo is one of the funniest things I think ever. And that was something I didn't want to lose, because we did have a casting, because Jules, who's famously known as the Shadow the Hedgehog on YouTube, who does a lot of really cool gameplay videos and stuff where he voices Shadow, and he has a very specific style of doing Shadow. He definitely is loud, and it works. It works very well for his content. But when I got casted in Revo as Shadow, I wanted to do something different and kind of bring it back to the character's roots. But I kept certain things that were very, you know, Revo-isms, I'd like to call them. With Charmy being Shadow's therapist, that was definitely one of them.
Revo-ism is a good word.
Yeah, add them over.
Yeah, Revo-isms, I'll say. But that's kind of my take on finding the personalities.
And shout out to Jules, by the way. He did a great job.
He was fantastic as Shadow. All the blessings in the world to him. He does great stuff with the character.
If I may give my compliments to both of you on your personification, like with Kelp, like I love your Silver, because like he's the character you could just spend the day hanging out with and just having a ball with, and just like goofing off and everything. And Shadow's like the sort of mysterious character, but something about him on a deeper level. I hope I'm saying the right word there.
Yeah, no,
that's the best way.
He may seem a little prickly around the edges, but you know, deep down, he's a very nuanced character, and he's got a softer side to him. He's not an edgelord. That's the most important thing I wanted to do with Shadow, is that, you know, Shadow is not just this edgy character who's always mean and a jerk to people. Shadow is, by his very nature, someone who does things his own way for his own reasons because it's what Maria would have wanted. And that's something that I will say till the end of time. He's not an edgelord, he's not a jerk, and I don't like portraying him that way. Unless it's Boom, in which case I will portray him as a jerk until the end of time, because that's the whole point. He's funny that way in Boom, and that's the reason.
And for Sydney, like, I love how you portray Blade as like someone that you could just sit down and have some tea with and just talk about like pretty much anything with, and just go even further, like how we all just developed her character further and further. Like that was just a lot of fun to do.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment, Kevin. I've loved working with Revo. Doing improv versus a script is very different because you have to explore the characters you wouldn't otherwise, and it's just been so rewarding. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I love your tail because he's like the perfect best friend little brother character that you can just banter with to no end and then turn right around and he'll have you back instantly if something is up. It's great.
Oh, I love Tails. He's the best.
We all love Tails. He's always great. You gotta love Tails.
Oh, you can't say no to him.
Oh, I have this question that will make Kevin very happy. So Sydney, tell us your thoughts on when Kevin gave you the mints at the Rebel intro.
Oh, yes, I'm curious about that. I'll tell the story as well, but I'm curious about that.
I remember this video.
Sonic Rebel, oh my gosh, my head was everywhere at that time. But it was so sweet that you all thought of me. So for those of you who don't know, so I was with one of my groups, and I had come in, and Kevin and the crew surprised me with a bag of mints from Olive Garden, just as a token and a nod towards Tails, and it was the sweetest thing. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. So the story was just like we were at Olive Garden the day before, and like at the end of the meal, they give the mint chocolate, and there were a bunch left over. And my thought was, okay, I'm gonna give these to Sydney as a surprise. I'm not gonna tell her anything, and we're going to record her reaction as Tails because it will be funny.
And funny it was. It was so
funny. It was.
Oh yeah. I just loved how you were like what's your what Tails' favorite thing in the whole world? And you were like, Cosmo.
I just loved. I loved when watching that. That was the instant like first reaction. Cosmo. It was hilarious.
Like your reaction. I'm so glad we caught it on camera because it's like. You're just like it felt like your brain was processing when Kevin put the mitt in your hand,
and I was like, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was such a special moment. I'm just so grateful to not only have just amazing co-actors and directors and crew, but they're also my friends. So I'm very grateful.
How about when we got you the Blaze plush as we came back? What was your reaction to that?
Oh, so they were all super kind. So at Sonic Revo Live, they all teamed up together and pulled their money together and bought me a little plush. And those plushes are very expensive. And then it just meant the world. So I'm so honored that you all gave that to me. So thank you.
It was our plan because I literally asked Kevin, "Hey, can you ask Sydney? Does she have a Blaze plush?"
And you were like, "No, you don't have to get me anything." Like, listen, if you're here, we're gonna use a Blaze plush.
Thank you. I love it. It's in my room and it's in my special stuffed animal place. So thank you.
It was our pleasure. You're just amazing, Sydney. So we wanted to show our appreciation.
Thank you. That really means a lot.
Oh, I believe we have more questions from the audience. I believe, yes, I did see one from Trey Thornton 19. Question for Miss Sydney and Dr. Kelp. What are your thoughts about Silver and Blaze?
Oh,
Well, there's many a thought that could be had about Silver and Blaze, isn't there,
talking
Sydney?
like Silver and Blaze? Silver and Blaze. Like,
Yeah, here's a better question. Are you talking about Silver and Blaze or Silver and Blaze?
yeah, there we go.
I love it.
I guess I can just kind of say this. When it comes to Silver and Blaze, the character dynamic of these two being so far removed from the rest of the cast, because Blaze is from another dimension and Silver is from the future, automatically it's going to cause some pairings between those characters and what if scenarios, like what if these characters had more interactions, they're two characters who are so removed from this timeline. Silver's in the future, Blaze is in another dimension, so it's like they don't get paired up enough. And when they are paired up enough, how would they interact? And in reality, it does seem like they would have a lot of things in common because they're so far removed from the rest of the cast. And of course, us being as Silver and Blaze, and it being outside of Revo. I mean, I gotta say, I ship it.
Yes.
But inside Revo, we don't push ships because we want everyone to feel welcome, so we don't push for anything specifically. But we will joke until the end of time about hypothetical situations and all that sort of stuff, because it's all in good fun. But outside of Revo, I'm 100% Sylvace.
Yes. I think, just echoing off of what Kelp said with Silver and Blaze, I think this is what Kelp really masterfully captured about Silver and Blaze in the Sonic Revo Silver and Blaze 2. And where these two characters are so opposite, but yet so alike at the same time. Their motivations align a lot. It's like, just quoting Kelp's amazing improv monologue, was just that they have the weight of the world on their shoulders in different ways, but they have so many people depending on them at the same time. And because of their circumstances, maybe they're a little socially crippled, and so in many ways, like, it makes sense for them to be together because their motivations align and they can relate to each other so much. In fact, while they're still in so many ways the opposite. And I think that's something that I really, really like that Revo has graciously let us do, was to bring that out about these characters. Like, why are they so attached to each other? Why are they best friends? Because they are so alike in many ways.
Of course. And it's another thing, like, as you said, they both feel like they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. I mean, they literally do. They both have the weight of their own worlds on their shoulders. Blaze is the ruler and protector of the soul dimension, and she's the only one who is there to protect it. I mean, you have Marine, but Marine isn't like the guardian of the soul emeralds, isn't the person who rules the kingdom. And then Silver is like this lone protector of a doomed future, and he's the only one who is still trying to fix it. And it's like they both want the best for their respective world, but they obviously feel so alone in that sense because they have such a responsibility on their shoulders that, even though they're completely opposite, they're also extremely similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's something that I really, Kelp, and I'm really proud of us, proud of our chemistry. It's like bringing that out, this best friend relationship. And, relationship, quote unquote, and
hypothetical.
Hypothetically, best friends. But yeah, I think that's what I love about those two, and that you can go pretty deep with their relationship, and that's super fun to explore as an actor.
Yeah, and kind of echoing off of that monologue in Silver and Blaze 2, which is one of my favorite panels that I've ever did was Silver and Blaze 2, because it really while we had fun and games with that panel, we did have a very serious moment, and me and Sydney knew that there was going to be a serious moment because it was building up to some story for Revo itself, because we've started to introduce some overlapping story into Revo nowadays because people love our portrayals of these characters and we wanted to do more with them. So with Silver and Blaze 2, we had Silver just do this monologue at the end because after the events of another panel, Mimic had basically torn Blaze apart emotionally. And so Silver was like the one who really like noticed how bad it got, and so Silver took a moment to kind of spring something on Blaze, which she didn't appreciate, which was, you know, he was the one who basically sprung the whole panel into action, and then afterwards Blaze was mad at him for doing it. And so then Silver, you know, kind of lets it all out and says, you know, like you had something happen to you and you won't tell me what it was, and I just, you know, I don't want you to feel alone. And we knew it was going to be so emotionally important for these characters and our portrayal of these characters that we did several rehearsals for this. And I think every time I gave a different version of the same speech that happened at the end, but it was always improv. I never wrote down anything that I was going to say. I just said it, and it just made it even better. It was so much fun to do that panel, and it was so awesome to really dive deep into these characters and, you know, their dynamic. And that's what really, you know, I love the characterization of Silver and Blaze, especially the characterization we have of these two.
If I may go off of that, I just remember the praise we got, like, after that whole panel and that story. Like, everybody was like, thank you. You handled the characters with care. This is something that we've been missing for so long. Please keep doing this. And we all just felt very proud of ourselves after that.
Absolutely.
Totally. I remember, in some ways, Kelp, I almost wish I had us video record us doing that scene, because I had to usually I have my phone on hand to respond to people, but I had to put my phone down. I had to be in that scene with you. It was just such a special moment, and I remember just coming out of the panel, I was wiping tears from my eyes, just experiencing this as Blaze, and you did such.
Oh yeah, I was crying my eyes out afterward because character development like that is something I'm a sucker for, and I love it when things like that happen. It makes you love the characters even more.
Absolutely, it just brings it to such a deeper level.
And I have to compliment you, Kelp, because being on stage or performing with somebody that you can deep dive, you can just be in the moment and just experience what the character is feeling is so special. And to be able to bring that about with another actor, I had to have you there. To have it with another actor with you is so special. So I'm so grateful for you, Kelp. You nailed it. It was so good.
Well, thank you. That's high praise coming from you.
I mean every word.
As do I. You are amazing too.
My only regret with that panel is I did not make it clear that Silver and Blaze spar, so it sounded like that Blaze beats up poor Silver all the time, and that was not what I meant.
Silver's just regularly receiving this physical abuse.
I did not mean that. I was just
they spar.
They spar together. They spar a lot. That's what I was trying to say, and it did not come out. Actually, one fun fact behind the scenes, was that monologue was supposed to take place on a private beach on the palace grounds, but we got so caught up in the moment we forgot to move the scene to the setting.
No, we did.
We did. Yeah.
We did, because the way we said it was Blaze kind of, you know, triggered the end of the panel by saying all right, we can do maybe one more question and then you guys need to leave. I have things to do. And so then Kevin and everyone else left, and it was just us two on the stage, which is kind of the signal that like we've switched to this private area where now everyone has left.
True.
But it kind of switched into the dramatic moment because it was just the two of us doing this planned monologue. But I mean, planned in the sense that we were planning to do the monologue at the end the whole time, but we didn't want to do it until the very right moment.
Oh, and what you did, it was so good. I remember when we did our first rehearsal, we all just stopped. We were like, oh my gosh, we have something so good in our hands. So props to you, Kelp. It was so great.
I don't think anyone realized how deep I was going to go into that monologue.
Oh, that was the biggest surprise.
So good.
Yeah, that monologue you guys did was amazing. Like, that just shows that you two truly captured their serious conversation and kind of showing how their progression, of like, hey, I'm always here to listen, you're not alone. And that teaches like an important lesson too, when you think about it. Like and I think that's like you two truly capture those two characters, especially in that serious moment in that panel. Like it was just phenomenal. I was crying too.
That was a really special.
It was a great panel. I loved it. It was a lot of fun.
Anytime there's a Silver and Blaze panel, I'm so psyched.
Absolutely.
And Blade and Tangle.
Oh, yes. I love Lauren so much.
Okay. Oh, here's a question from NC Voices. Here's a question for both of you. Are there any characters you enjoy voicing that you don't get to voice often?
Ooh. Sydney, you want to go first?
I love voicing Sonia. She is one of my favorite characters to voice because I have a background in classical piano, and so I actually have two younger brothers as well. So like her universe's parallels are a little uncanny with mine, and so I relate to her a lot, and so I get really excited to voice Sonia.
Okay, gotcha. So when it comes to Sonic, it's hard to say that there's one for Sonic specifically, but there's a certain type of character that I absolutely love to play that I almost never do, but when I do, it's so much fun, and that is playing a villain. I love playing a villain. Villains are some of the best characters to play because you get to have so much fun doing it. It's like you get to be, for instance, one of the things I'll say, like I've been cast in I've had stuff as a couple of projects where I was voicing a character from My Hero Academia, Tomura Shigaraki, which if you don't know is the main antagonist of that series. And every time I get to voice him is always so much fun because he's just crazy. He's crazy. He's deranged. He's evil. He just wants to destroy the world, and he doesn't care. He wants to destroy the world to let anyone do anything that they want because it's so. And whenever I get to indulge that voice and voice Shigaraki, it's always a great time because I get to indulge a different side and be something completely different. So getting to voice villains is absolutely incredible, and I love to voice them. They are so much fun. And of course, another character I also love to voice is Inosuke Hashibira from Demon Slayer. He is just absolutely insane, and I love my boy. He is the best boy.
Wow, that's quite interesting that you love to voice villains.
Oh, I do. And there's actually one more. I'm sorry. Considering Leah, you are a massive Kingdom Hearts fan, you will know this immediately. I also have on occasion had the distinct honor of being able to voice Riku in some Kingdom Hearts projects, and that has always been a fun time. I always love to experiment with different characters outside of just Sonic, and I've had a lot of fun voicing Riku for different projects. For there's a Kingdom Hearts fan event called March Caprice every year, and there's been a few projects where I voiced Riku for that, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's another one.
Yes. Let's go. I remember when you did your Vanitas voice impression. I was like, oh my gosh, you sound like Haley Joel Osment.
Again, villains. They're so much fun. I would jump at the chance when someone wants me to voice a villain. I love voicing villains. They are so much fun.
Like you do such a phenomenal job. Like when I hear like your villain voices, I'm like, oh yeah. I can see.
I even have a Starline voice that I competed with Ultimate for, not for Revo, but for a different project. And it was fun to voice Starline too. I love villains. I love voicing villains. They are so much fun.
I love how you did Joker from Persona 5 when we did the Super Mario Revolution panel. That was great.
Oh my gosh. So a little backstory on that. So for April Fools, we had a panel where we did an April Fools panel, and it didn't kind of go the way that we had hoped. And so I was like, okay, I have an idea for April Fools next year. We're going to switch the script. We're going to take it from Sonic Revolution and we're going to make it Mario Revolution. But we need a character to kind of steal the show, so to speak. And there's only one Sega character that can do that, and that's Joker. So I was like, okay, what if I steal the show of an Ask Sonic and Friends and make it to where he turns it into Mario? So Joker steals the hearts of Revolution and turns it into Mario Revolution. And of course, I am a massive fan of Persona 5. I love Joker, and I have loved voicing him in previous impressions and stuff, and like he's so much fun. He's so cool. That's a joke for Persona fans, but yeah, voicing Joker was a lot of fun. So I stole your heart.
It was so clever because I remember when I was making the promo image for that one, you literally told me, oh, make a fake one and make a real one.
Yeah, because we had to go with the deception the whole entire time. We needed to have the on paper one look like a Sonic one, but then in reality it was Mario.
I gotta say, Sydney, like you did a great job as Yoshi in that panel. Yes, Sydney was fantastic as Yoshi. For saying one word, you captured so much of that character.
Yes. Yoshi's so much fun. He's if somebody asks for an impression, that's my party trick. I'll do a Yoshi impression. I love Yoshi.
I mean, she literally did like one thing, and that was perfect. It was great.
And poor Ultimate, he was a champion. He had to improv with me as my translator.
Ultimate was being the translator for Sydney. It was hilarious.
He was pretty much improving on my behalf, and it was great.
It's really cool because when you guys were planning that panel, like it came at the right time because the Super Mario Brothers movie came out this year.
Oh, that's what made it even better.
Yeah. Of course, we were planning this before like a date for the Mario movie had kind of been revealed.
Mm-hmm.
we had been planning this for a while. Like we were planning that like well in advance. Like ever since the April Fools of the previous year, I kind of started planning to do an April Fools panel. So it was in the works for a long time.
But the payoff was amazing.
Oh, it was so great. It was so great.
The audience was so confused. They're like, what?
And it was beautiful.
Anytime I get a chance to voice a character that I really enjoy or to voice a villain, like, I'd love to give a shot at Starline sometime. That'd be great. But, you know, who knows?
Starline's fun. He's a very theatrical.
Indubitably. He's quite a refined person. I would look forward to the opportunity very much.
He's one of those characters that just like, he's like so soothing, but yep, makes your skin crawl at the same time.
He's like so suave, but he's also like, there is something about him that is terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And that's why Tails is not looking forward to the day he meets Cosmo.
No, he is not.
Oh my gosh. I still remember, I think it was like, what was it at like, probably at the end of the con, Kevin? And I think I think what happened was like, I think I think Ultimate was talking to Boone, and then like for some reason, like, he literally told Boone, I was like, oh yeah, Tails is cheating on you with a cactus or something.
Yeah, and I ran to get you to record the whole thing too.
And like Ultimate and I just went off for 10 minutes, just Starline and Tails going at each other. It was fun.
That part was
Ultimate's great as Starline. He's fantastic.
I enjoyed yours too. Everybody does a good job.
Oh yeah. It's great.
Nice. All right, here is my next question. So tell us your both of your guys' experience of being a part of the Sonic Revolution voice cast and how it has helped in your voice performances.
You want to go first, Sydney?
Sure. So I remember getting a message from Cashlyn. She's like, she was the original casting director. She's like, hey, you know, there's an opportunity to audition for Tails for these like live stream events. I was like, oh yeah, sure. And so I helped with this one live stream, and then she messaged me again. It was like, hey, there's this thing called the Sonic Revo, and they're doing live streams. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. And I remember that was like one of the best decisions like I've ever had and best opportunities that I've ever had to be a part of. Oh my gosh, like our cast is so tight knit. It is the most tight knit cast I've ever been a part of. We're super close. In regards to opportunities, it's been I'm so grateful. It's been huge. I've been able to get more of my voice out there, which I'm so grateful for, and it's just been an amazing opportunity.
Gosh, I remember when we were first talking, right before the Act Sonic character, I just got this instant vibe from you, like, oh my gosh, I can get along with this person great. And I remember you like, yes, I'm like, no, tell me more about you and all that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to work with this person.
I do remember the first time I talked to you. It was right before our first show, and it just kind of exploded.
Yeah,
we were like, we'll do this one time, and then
because that was my first impression. I'm like, oh, you know, it's just gonna be this one time thing, and that's it, and it took off from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same with me, you know, with Revo. You know, before Revo, I was in a few projects, but I wasn't really very widely known. Not a lot of people knew who I was. I mean, I was in Cashlyn's projects, and because of Cashlyn, I was able to even get the spot in Revo. I auditioned as, you know, I auditioned for Silver, and because at the time Shadow was taken, you know, Jules was Shadow, and I was the understudy of Shadow at the time, and so then it was, you know, getting the chance to voice this character. Because I mean, like, originally Silver wasn't even like in Revo. He was brought on kind of later in the winter of that year as a surprise character appearance for, I think it was a Would You Rather panel. It was the first panel that Silver showed up in. He showed up like halfway through. He was a surprise, and no one really, you know, knew about, you know, Silver showing up. And so when I showed up as Silver, people were like, oh my gosh, Silver. And it was so much fun to do it. And then, you know, through Revo, I've really gotten to come into my own as these characters and to really, you know, hone hone my craft, so to speak, with Shadow and Silver. And it's to the point where, now I feel like because of Revo, I've had so much time to practice and to really get to be feel like I've made my mark on these characters. And, now it's really spread my name around to where a lot of people, when they're thinking of Shadow or Silver, they'll think of me. And it's a tremendous honor to really be seen as one of the, iconic voices of these characters. Like, oh, if they think of Shadow and Silver and they're in Revo, they're thinking of my voice. It's like crazy, but that's one of the things. And so like, I mean, I didn't think that I would have people, being so much of a fan of my voice. Like I have people who are huge fans of me that I didn't even expect I would get like fans, so to speak. I'm tremendously honored by how Revo has taken off and how I've been able to, participate in this, because I love doing it. And at the end of the day, if I can put a smile on someone else's face, that's all I really need. And that's just the gift that keeps on giving.
That is, yeah, like like I can't even imagine, if you weren't the voices of Shadow and Silver. Like it would like it would feel off to me.
Yeah, same here. And just to add, like it's an interesting, like, okay, what if question? Like what if we never did these panels? Where would they be now? Because I remember like Sydney constantly thanking me, like, oh, thank you for all these opportunities and all that. And it's interesting to consider, like, okay, where would they be now if this had not taken off and so forth? So it's very interesting how one thing leads to another.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. And I think, it's even goes so far as, like, I don't think me and Sydney would have half the chemistry or connection that we would if it wasn't for Revo.
Oh no,
Mhm.
I 100% agree with that comment. I don't know if we would have. We
probably wouldn't have even met.
Casting? I don't know.
I mean, we
so
would have
glad.
met, but like we wouldn't have really like had many like interactions like directly between the two of us.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful, and to the rest of the cast too. I mean, oh my goodness, when I read the comics now, or when I look at the characters, like I hear our cast's voices. Those are
Absolutely.
the people I hear when I'm like reading the comics or anything. It's just a phenomenal cast. I'm always in awe of everybody's performance.
Getting to read a comic that releases and like I see these new characters, like, oh, I see a new IDW comic come out with Tangle in it, and I'm just like, I'm thinking of Corin.
Yeah, I will always be Tangle in her voice.
Or I see something with Starline and I'm just like, I'm thinking of Ultimate.
Same, 100% the same. These actors are masters of their craft. No,
They're so great.
So lucky to work with all these amazing people.
Yes.
Oh, I have a question for you, Sydney. I would like to know your thoughts about when Andrew HVA gave you the opportunity to voice Tails in the ending skit of the Roses cover he did. And Andrew,
Oh, this I gotta hear.
you did tell me you recorded your lines the same day he told you about it.
Oh,
I'm curious.
Yes. So so he gave me the lines. He's like, hey Sid, can you voice this for me? He's like, yeah, sure, I'll be. And then I was in this place where my booth was at the time, so I was like, I'll just pump these out. But it was fun. And we're out of Revo, so I can say this, but I'm a big Son Amy fan, so this was hilarious to tease. And Andrew is an amazing actor. I look up to him so much. So any chance I get to work with him, I'm always excited.
The funny thing is like I can legit see Tails just egging Sonic on about all this and him being in denial.
Yeah. Can we just take a moment to applaud Andrew as Sonic?
Yes,
He is.
sure.
I mean, bless him. He is Sonic in my eyes.
He embodies so much about that blue rodent. It's great.
So good. Well,
To take a word out of Eggman's book, The Blue Rodent.
I think that's the magic thing too, is that everybody has these different takes on these characters, but it's magic and it works because everybody's view on that character is just slightly different. But it's still magic. Everybody produces magic.
Yes, like I think Doom and I, like, he told Doom and I first. Like, as soon as he's like, oh, Sydney was fast, she recorded her lines. We're like, what? Like, Doom and I were just like so caught off guard when he told us that. We're just like, really? He's like, yeah, she recorded it really fast.
I remember him sending a copy of it to me before it released, and I was dying. I could not. I was walking home from work, and I'm sure people thought I was insane. I was just walking home and just busting a gut laughing. He killed it. Andrew is a master of his craft.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like that idea was really requested by Kevin and I because of a tweet I saw on Twitter that someone put, like, imagine Sonic singing Peaches but Roses, and that was like ideas for it. And we requested to Andrew, and Andrew's like, oh yeah, I'll pull that off.
It's amazing how it blew up on YouTube too. I think that's like your highest viewed video so far.
I thought almost 500,000 views now.
It's like
we are approaching it.
I think it's like over 400K.
That's crazy.
That's amazing. Well,
that's awesome. Well deserved.
Amazing video. Amazing cover.
Yeah, but at least it's like at least now we know, because I was curious what was your thought process going through that to record immediately for that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I just happened to be I wish it was more eventful. I just happened to be near my studio at the time, so I was able to pump them out really fast, but I thought it was hilarious. I was very excited.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the that scream though that he did always makes me laugh. Like, I can't take it seriously when he does it. But Kevin, do you have another question?
Yeah, speaking of booths, I know you just recently built your own booth, Sydney. Tell us more about that, and feel free to tell us about your booth too, Kelp. I'll start with you, Sydney, because you just built yours.
Yeah, so I had my equipment and my audio space analyzed by a professional, and he was awesome. He gave me, he's like, you're getting some echo and some reverb here. So I was like, oh shoot, what do I do? So I reached out to Twitter and some friends, was like, what do I do? And they were like, oh, you can build your booth here. Here's a diagram, go build it. I was like, okay. So I now am in a fort of moving blankets and PVC pipes, and it is awesome. So if any of you need a PVC pipe booth, I got you. It's awesome. I really like it. How about you? Tell us your secret.
As for booth, I have no booth. That's not even a joke. I don't.
Oh.
I mean, each time I've done my voicing, I have done so in a closet.
Oh, okay.
Which, isn't necessarily by choice, but it's just because I'm making do with the best that I have, and that's the best I have. I don't have any soundproofing foam as of yet. Eventually, when I, move out and get on my own and have my own place, I want to make a proper voiceover booth. But as for right now, where I'm at, I can't really do that, so I have to make do with the best that I've got. And
a closet completely understandable.
Well, a closet. Well, there's a lot of people that is their booth, is the closet.
Yeah.
I know voice actors. They make 6 figures, and they do all of their voiceover work in their walk-in closet. So
yeah, I mean,
you got it made. You did a good job.
I mean, it's a good space. I mean, it just needs. It obviously needs work. I mean, I wish I had some sort of air conditioning in there.
Oh, thanks.
But sadly, closets don't get much of that. But I make do with what I got, and if it if I need to redo something, I'll redo it. I'll just re-record and all that sort of stuff. That's just how it goes. That's the nature of the business.
Okay. Here is my next question. What has been your favorite panel you have been in Sonic Revolution? And you can say both in character and out of character.
That's like picking a favorite child. My gosh, this is tough. Oh boy. I think my mind jumps to two automatically. I really enjoyed Silver and Blaze 2 because there was a lot of things riding on that panel and a lot of things we wanted to do with that panel, and I feel like we were able to achieve it. And then another one that I really enjoyed a lot was not a panel that was in character at all. It was an out of character guest panel. It was Deep Dive into Dreams, and its subsequent sequel panel, Deep Dive into Dreams 2, which was a Revo showcase panel where we brought on guest creators for the community for Dreams PS4 and PS5. They're a community of developers who are making fan games inside the Dreams engine, and it really helps them to showcase the talent and that they have and the hard work that they've done on these projects when they're in a state where Dreams itself can't showcase them because they're tied to Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic the Hedgehog Sonic fan games can't showcase them because they're tied to Dreams. So we gave them the space to where they can show their stuff and show what they've been able to do. And it was so cool to see these games that they were pretty much some of the ways I got my start in voicing Shadow. It was my first official role where I got cast as Shadow was in Sonic Venture, which is a Dreams fan game. And because of that, I was able to, get involved with more Dreams projects. And I wanted to, give back to them and showcase them. And it really sucks because now they're in an even more precarious state because Dreams has they're ending support for Dreams. So they're going to take down, they're not going to add any more updates or anything to, further Dreams itself. I mean, they'll still be able to share their creations and all that sort of stuff, but the Dreams creators are really in a bad state right now. And it sucks, but I'm going to keep supporting them until the end of time. And if I can give a chance to them to showcase them, I will keep doing so. And I love to do it in Revo. I have the ability to do it in Revo, and I will keep doing it in Revo to show them the spotlight that they deserve for this hard work that they've done.
Oh, yeah. And if I may add to that, it's great to give those smaller creators, smaller up-and-coming creators a chance to shine, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely one of those things they really don't have many ways to showcase what they do. And being able to give back to them, after being cast in their projects and now being as involved in Revo as I am, being able to give them the chance to show off what they've done it's great for me. I really like the fact that I'm able to showcase their hard work and their talent.
Nice. How about you, Sydney?
Oh gosh, that's hard. I have so many. That's hard, but I would agree with Kelp. My top pick, it was Silver and Blaze 2. We worked really, really hard on that panel, and I'm really proud of what we delivered. And so I think that was definitely one of my favorites. I think if I were to choose more, it would probably narrow it down to scenes in panels. So Andrew and I did our improv panel, and that was he's such a master of his craft, so being able to be on stage with him was incredible. But I think probably one of my favorite Revo moments is with you, Kelp, when we did the soap opera. I think that's when we started realizing, oh my gosh, we got it.
For exploding pancreas.
Oh my gosh.
That was one of the funniest moments I think I've ever had on a panel. It was so funny that it's one of the few times ever in a Revo panel where I have broken character and laughed. It was that funny. I have had very few moments where I've broken character, but that was one.
Yeah,
that was
and
so
it was
funny.
just so unexpected and out of the
things I was
blue.
expecting, it was not that, and I was just it was so wild that it just made me laugh so much. I had to mute my mic because I couldn't stop laughing.
Oh my gosh. I think that's, and I remember like after the panel.
And you played into it too. you were like, don't laugh, Silver. It's serious.
Oh, it's great.
And then
I couldn't control it.
I couldn't stop. Oh,
that was so funny.
Aching at the end of that. But I think I actually do like it when actors break character too. It means they're having fun.
It's a very rare moment, but that was just one where it was so funny. I couldn't keep it in. I broke character. I couldn't do it.
It was so great. Oh my gosh. And I remember Kevin, like after that, you were like, Kevin's like, hey, you two with Silver and Blaze, you got the chemistry down. I was like,
oh yeah.
That was really the start of when we had the first, like after that, we got the first Silver and Blaze panel.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember, Sydney, when you broke character, I think it was like one of the voice improv, and Andrew was Mickey. I forgot the character you play, but it's like, this is not a laughing matter.
I could not stop. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I actually like it when people break character, but yes, it was so fun. That was such a funny moment.
Oh my god. I think I kind of heard you, Sydney. You broke character a little bit in the Sonic 32nd anniversary panel. And then I think when Amy was brought onto the stage, and then like Amy was asked Sonic about, Tails told me that you sang a song about me. Is that true? And then I think at one part or moment that I've noticed was that when Andrew in his Sonic voice was like saying, Tails, what are you doing? And then I kind of heard your voice cracked a bit at that moment.
There are times I slip. There was one, I think you were there. But it was a Sonic Boom panel, and Andrew and Ultimate said something, and I literally spat out my water, and I had to do I've never done that, and
I think I remembered that. I don't remember the exact context of what it was, but there was a moment where I think I remember you lost it. It was definitely a Boom panel, because Sonic Boom panels have the opportunity to be some of the funniest panels that we do.
Oh yes, and I know, and even though we don't do them often for reading because we want to savor the moment, when we do them, the audience and us love them.
Like I can tell you this much. Like as casting director, like when we plan for panels, we don't want to ever do a panel too much to the point where it gets to be something where like, okay, it loses its charm. And for Sonic Boom specifically, we wait a long time after each Boom panel before we do another one, because we want it to be special, because Boom panels have the potential to be some of the funniest panels, simply because Sonic Boom is hilarious. The TV show is so funny. And the Sonic Boom TV show to me is still my favorite Sonic TV show. It's so funny. And like, even though I was only ever in one Boom panel, and it was before, because I used to be Boom Shadow, but I gave up the role so someone else could take the reins, because I wanted to be able to audition for another character in the future, whoever that may be. I don't know. But I gave up Boom Shadow. But the one time I was Boom Shadow, it was so much fun.
Nice.
I think that really speaks to our casting directors, because whenever I do Sonic Boom, shout out to Sonic Boom, one of our actors.
Shout out Sonic Boom. You make great art.
Yes. Whenever we do Sonic Boom panels, it's every time I listen back to it, it literally just sounds like I'm listening to a Sonic Boom episode. The chemistry between all of the characters, so it's on point. So it really speaks a lot to our casting directors because they have to take into account character chemistry.
Oh, yeah. I think one of my favorite Boom panels was the Amy's Diary one. That one was such a ball.
That's my
Oh,
favorite.
that
I
was
love that one.
great.
That was hilarious.
I
Like,
love that one.
yeah, that one is like my favorite because it's like as soon as Amy comes, uh-oh. Let the chaos ensue.
It was so great.
But I am curious, like which diary entry was like the one where it's like hilarious and it looked like you were about to break character in or something when you read the diary entries or anything.
Gosh, I don't remember if I broke character in that one. I'm sure I did. Oh, there were so many good ones. I think I don't recall breaking character, but there was one point. Probably one of my favorite parts of that panel is they were talking about Amy dragging Sonic to look at paint swatches or something, and Andrew's just like, "Oh, I just run away." I don't know, that line every time gets me. But I can't remember times I broke character, but I was enjoying myself very thoroughly.
I think one of my favorite diary entries is the one where like Amy had to give Sonic CPR or something.
Oh, yes, quote unquote CPR. Yes.
Yeah, like it's always good to wait on the Boom panels because it's like you said, Kelp, if you keep doing like too much of like of a panel genre, it kind of loses its charm over time.
Yeah.
Except
And
if we do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Leah.
but when it comes, yeah, but Boom is always worth waiting because, like, it's like you said, you have to spread it out so that way you keep the funny charm of Boom because that's what Boom is. It's just the more humorous, it's also the one that breaks the fourth wall.
I remember I think it was like the very first Boom panel we did. I love the fourth wall break you did, Kelp, when I think Boom Shadow was talking about that giant Dr. Kelp person, and you were like,
Yeah, no,
I just want to leave.
The funny thing was at the end of I think it was the first Sonic Boom panel we ever had when I was voicing Boom Shadow. I played into the fact that Boom in the TV show, they broke the fourth wall a couple times. Like they did one where Roger was like, he was like, just go to your happy place, just go to your happy place. And then he like keeps going because Eggman keeps on getting into his thoughts. And then it goes to where it's like a live action Roger Craig Smith in a Sonic outfit, and he's like, "Oops, one too many," and it was so funny because he was just taking out the trash in a Sonic outfit that was ridiculously bad. And so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna break the fourth wall a lot in this panel." And so when I was doing Boom Shadow, I was like, "It's almost like we're voiced by a bunch of different voice actors who aren't even the real voices of our characters. Who's this DietDrKelp person? Sounds like a real idiot." And then on the side, I did my own voice, and I was like, "I just want to leave." It was so funny.
It was yeah, like I feel like Boom is kind of like the exception where you can break the fourth wall because they literally do it in the show.
Absolutely.
and like and the fact that you actually said that, it's like, oh wow.
There's great moments. Like I love it when a fourth wall break is really like well executed, like especially in regards to like different cartoons and media. Like Boom did it great. Another great example is Chowder. If anyone remembers that show,
Yeah,
where they ran out of budget because they spent so much money, and so they cut to a live action sequence of them doing a car wash to save the show of Chowder, and it was so funny. Chowder is ahead of its time, and I'll stick by that.
You know,
Yeah.
one panel that I didn't think about this, but one panel that I really loved in Revo was the Mimic panel, where it was the imposter panel where we had to figure out who was the imposter.
Oh yes, that was
Yeah.
great.
Really cool. And shout out to Kelp because he had to come and defend me the whole time as Silver.
Oh,
So
yeah.
grateful.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
It's funny to look at just the little subtle thing that you came up with that did not fit Blaze, but it took a while for at least everyone to figure out. That was clever.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Corin was a great coach. Well, and Kelp, you had to come to my aid a lot just to be like, no, she's great. She's fine. She's who she says she is, right?
Yeah, I was trying to protect you, and then in the end it was. Or wait, was that the panel where I wasn't able to be there?
No, you were there.
No, you were there.
You were there.
Okay, because I remember there was one with Silver. Oh, that was Book Club. Blaze's
Yeah,
Book
that was the book.
I was not
club.
able to be Silver on that one, so we had hyper filling.
Yeah, yes. But no, you were in the one with me, and everybody was so good to
Right.
keep me off the scent.
I'm curious, Sydney, like what went through your mind when you did the whole Blaze breakdown thing? Like I know we rehearsed that several times, but like when you actually did it for real, like what was going through your mind at the time?
I think I was just trying to be in the moment of her character. So like kind of similar what to Kelp was talking about with the Sonic or the Silver monologue. It's just being in that moment with the character, going through the throes of those emotions. Yeah, I remember the buildup, but just experiencing the trauma and the terror and just that deep self-hatred and fear of her, just bringing that out. It was really a rewarding panel for me to do, because to experience what Blaze was experiencing, to get truly into her head, it was an honor.
You pulled it off beautifully because it just personified what would really happen to Blaze so well, and it makes me love her as a character even more because it gives the audience like, no, there's something way more deeper to her than just the princess and all that.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about Revo is that you as directors have given us the opportunity to explore these characters we can't otherwise do. And I think that's what also led into what Kelp did so masterfully with his monologues. We can explore why we love these characters, how deep they are. And that's what I really enjoy about Revo. We don't just do funny panels, we do serious ones as well. And that's what I love.
Mm-hmm.
So, Leah, did you or an audience member have a question you wanted to ask?
Yes, I do. Do you have any favorite panel moments that you found either memorable or funny?
Well, I think we kind of covered that already in that big long discussion.
Sorry, we got excited.
Yeah, we kind of. I feel like we kind of covered that one.
I would say the telenovela is like at the top of my list for
telenovela, definitely.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
I think another one maybe I didn't mention was Make Shadow Laugh. That panel was a lot of fun. Specifically because I wanted it to be the worst joke that made Shadow break. So I was like, of course it's going to be a dad joke at the end. Like I was like, we're going to save a dad joke for the very end, and that's going to be the one that shatters him. But everything else was like just hilarious. It was very fun. It was a very fun panel to do because I had to rein myself in to just turn off my humor, which is impossible, but I did it somehow.
I'm curious. Did you ever laugh for real during any of the jokes and had to mute yourself or anything?
I did. There was one that was really funny. I forget what it was, but there was one where I thought it was very funny, and I had to like take a moment to stop myself from laughing before reacting to it and coming back with some kind of comeback in typical Shadow fashion.
Oh my gosh. Like, I remember I actually literally made the meme for that panel, and posted on the Revo socials. But like, but you did such a great job at being able to hide that you were going to laugh at some of the audience's jokes. Because
Yeah.
because I can tell that was pretty tough.
Yeah. Shadow is a tough cookie. He doesn't like to laugh, but he can laugh. It's just apparently at stupid jokes.
Oh my gosh. Ooh. Okay. Ooh, here's an interesting question that I have. Which brand of recording equipment would you recommend for those who are aspiring to get into voice acting?
That's a good question.
Good question.
Well, from my experience, I started out with my phone, which is not what I would recommend at all. Don't get it twisted. I'm not recommending a phone, but I started out with my phone, and then I got a better mic. And I got an XLR mic. So I got an Aston Origin, which is the same exact mic that Cashlin used. Because I remember I was talking with Cashlin about different mics and stuff. I was asking for her help when I was thinking it, because she cast me as Shadow because I promised I was going to get a better mic, and I did. I'm a man of my word. I did. So I went about looking at mics, and I ended up getting a mic stand, an XLR mic, the Aston Origin, and then I got myself an isolation shield, which is essentially just a kind of like a foam panel thing that you can wrap around your mic that you can screw on to like a mic stand or something, and it will create like a little barrier behind it for noise. And then, of course, pop filter and all that sort of stuff, the typical things you need. But I'd recommend, if you can, start small. There's USB mics out there that are pretty good. I know a lot of people use Blue Yeti microphones, which I have no experience with because I jumped right to a $400 mic, which is the Aston Origin. It's a $400 mic. It's pretty expensive, but it was worth it because I still get great use out of it. And it's one of the things that people even in the industry use. Like some people use Aston Origins in the industry. So yeah, it's definitely something that you just start. I'd say start small with what you can, and once you get a chance, upgrade as you can, upgrade when you can, and just build yourself out a nice thing. Like I plan to get a better setup with like booth in general. So
I would agree with Kelp. So I actually started on my phone too, and as Kelp said, I don't recommend it. Don't do that.
No, I highly do not recommend starting on a phone.
But one microphone I see a lot going around, especially for newcomers, are the A22020 by Audio Technica. So the A220 series. So you can start looking into there. I personally have an RCM Pro, Rockville RCM Pro XLR mic. But I get, like Kelp said, it's okay to start small. I don't totally agree with people saying no USB mics ever. It's a great place to start. You just can't use it for industry standard projects. If you want industry standard projects, you have to do XLR. You don't have a choice.
Like to go off of that, sorry for interrupting. I'd say like, you know, Blue Yeti mics and stuff like that, those USB mics, they can be perfectly fine for like fan projects in terms of sonic. Like
Yeah,
those can be perfectly fine. But if you want to get into like a paid casting call and really have a chance, you're going to need something better.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you want to do industry standard stuff, you've got to get an XLR mic. And the nice thing is once you get that equipment, it will last you a lifetime. But yeah, it's okay to start out small. Just know that if you do get a USB mic, you'll eventually have to upgrade if you want to get really serious with voiceovers. But one trick, if you're like in school, like if you're in high school or college, there's a lot of multimedia classes you can take. So like when I was in college, when I was starting out, I actually got permission to use the school's radio microphones to record my voiceovers. So your school might have something there and you'll be able to learn more about the equipment, why you need an XLR mic, why it's important to have an interface. So I would say start there. If you're like homeschooled or don't have access to that, there's plenty of classes online as well that'll teach you. So I would start there. So but yeah, take advantage of your community. If there's something at your school, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I had I had the help of some professional voice actors just who made a server that on Discord, they're called the Blaze Network, and someone there, Palace Dawson, who was also a help to Cashlin. Cashlin introduced me. Palace helped me to kind of learn and have some lessons and classes to increase my voice acting abilities, and I used those lessons to get like practice things that I could use to start out, like just some drills I could do where I could do like practice tongue twisters and things like that, different techniques to try and make sure that, you know, your voice, like vocally, you can, you know, get a vocal workout, so to speak, to really make sure your voice is, you know, at the tone it needs to be, at the pitch it needs to be, and you can train your voice to do a lot more by pushing it to its limits. And, you know, without Palace's lessons, I don't think I would be the same as I am now. I definitely learned a lot and was able to grow because of it. And also I can definitely vouch in terms of, like my school gave me the ability to use some really good software. I was able to have access to the Adobe suite and have Adobe Audition, which I used for a lot of my voice recordings while I was in college. And now that I'm out of college, I'm using Audacity, but I hope to someday be able to go back to Audition because I really do love Audition. And it was what I was used to. I had it for free for 4 years, but you know, time moves on, you graduate and you have to move on. So really just taking advantage of your resources that you have around you is a great thing to do.
And it's doable. You can do it.
It is. I mean, half the stuff I learned about, even just not even relating to voiceover, but half the stuff I learned about video editing, I just learned via YouTube tutorials. There's definitely YouTube videos out there with tips and tricks, I'm sure. And those could be equally as valid.
That's some great advice with the type of equipment, you know. And yeah, for those who are aspiring to be voice actors professionally, there's some great advice from Kelp and Sydney.
There you go. You got this.
Thank you. You got it. You can do it.
Okay. Let's see. Ooh, okay. Here's a question. From the Sonic characters you voice, which character is the easiest to do and which character is the hardest to do?
Oh, gosh.
In Sonic Revo?
I think it's just Sonic characters that we voice in general.
In general.
I mean, it could be Revo, but it could also be, you know, other stuff because I do voice some other Sonic characters. I voiced Mighty for MC He's a great guy. MC Voice is a great guy. He is very talented. I voiced Mighty in some of his dubs. And that was really kind of the easiest, I'd say, because it was basically my voice, just maybe a little bit different. Because he just kind of wanted my natural voice for Mighty, and I did that. And then for the hardest voice that I can do, I would say probably the hardest voice for me to do is probably Sonic himself. I mean, if it was a voice that I haven't been casted in a project to do, definitely Vector, but that's just because it's very taxing on the throat. But I mean, I can do Vector. Find the computer room, but it's a little tough to do that on repeat. So Vector is one that's hard. But in terms of like that, I've actually been casted as. Definitely Sonic, because there's a lot of different ways that you can portray the character. And a lot of people have different voices in mind when they're thinking of Sonic himself. Some people think of Jason Griffith. Some people think of Ryan Drummond. Some people think of Roger Craig Smith. Some people think of Devin Mack. Some people think of Jaleel White. There's so many different versions of Sonic that it's hard to really narrow down. So when I do Sonic, I try to capture the essence of the character, but give my own spin on it. So like with a Dreams game, Sonic Adventure 3, by one of my buddies, Callistus J, he made that project, and I'm cast as Shadow and Sonic in that. I do a lot of voicing as Sonic, and I kind of do a mix of what I'd say is probably Jason Griffith and Roger Craig Smith. But it's fun to do Sonic. He's a fun character to be, but you know he's very tough because a lot of people have different expectations for how he's going to sound. So you know, I'd say Sonic's definitely the hardest that I can do. As for Shadow and Silver, I find them to be kind of easy by this point because I've done them so much. But definitely. But if it's not one that I've been casted for, it's definitely Vector, because I can't really do much of this without having taxing on my throat. Find the computer room.
Gosh, I guess for me, so Cream is really hard for me. I have a hard time sustaining Cream, so I veer away from her if I can. For ones that I've been casted as, I would say Queen Alina is very difficult for me. And Vanilla. Queen Alina and Vanilla are really hard to capture because there's not much on them. And so those two, I would say. Between Tails and Blaze, though, Tails is a lot tougher for me to sustain for a long time because he is a little rougher. But Blaze I can sustain for a long time, but because of her character, acting wise, she's a lot harder because she's such a deep and layered character that trying to figure out how to play her can be difficult.
Very interesting, because Sydney, I remember when we did that Metallic Madness character skits back in like March. You did a great job switching between Tails and Blaze for that one.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that was great.
Thank you.
Like that was amazing because it was ironic. It was like in the Metallic Madness, it was Tails versus Blaze, and I'm just like, oh dear. It was like in Sydney versus like
honestly, one of the things that I use kind of as training is character switching. I'll do a voice and then I'll switch to a different voice kind of on the fly to kind of test my reaction speeds to see how fast I can switch between the two. So, for instance, in one moment I could be talking as Silver, and then the very next I could be talking as Shadow, and then the very next I could be talking as Sonic. And it just is something that I use to kind of train myself. So switching can be difficult, but it comes with time.
Good idea.
But Sydney, you did such an amazing job there where
Thank you.
because I know you aren't used to doing that, but like there when you did it in the Metallic Madness live stream, it was flawlessly. Where
Oh,
it's like,
good. I was nervous, but it's okay. It's stretching me as an actor, and that's the whole point. So I was very grateful for the opportunity.
it was truly amazing. And I think we are in for one more question. Kevin, do you have any other questions?
Oh, Cindy. Speaking, I have a bit of a two-part, so I guess I'll do the telephone first. So when we came up with the whole iOS versus Android thing, so it's a little in joke, because of me and Taylor rivalry with Taylor the Android and iOS. So in camping with the boys panel, when we were talking about them in OS, we used like there was a point, and Taylor was like, "It's okay, Kevin. We all make mistakes." Was that like improv on the spot, or did you have that plan?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember, but I do remember it happening, but I don't remember what I think I might have had it kind of in the back of my mind, but it was kind of on the spot, ready to go. Sometimes there's in panels, you just react, you don't even have time to think about it. And I think it was one of those times that I did kind of have it in my arsenal, but that was a time that I had to pull it out right away.
And it was beautiful. It threw me off. But yeah, my last question is: you were coached, I believe her name is Sammy Grant. What is it like to be coached privately as a voice actor?
Yeah, so I'm actually not coached by her anymore. Sadly, she had to, because of her schedule, she couldn't fit me in anymore because she's an amazing coach. But I highly recommend, if you can, get a voice coach. She was a game changer for me. Because of her, I was able to get parts that I wouldn't be able to otherwise. She's a big accent coach, and so I was able to study under her, and she's incredible. So if you have the chance to get a coach, get one. And I highly recommend Sammy Grant if you ever need any accents or any other coaching. She's your gal. She's amazing.
Wow, that's really cool. I think it really helped too. When it comes to at least like what accents did you learn from the accent coach?
So when I studied under her, I was in the process of making my animation demo. So we focused on four. So we had British RP, so British pronunciation. We did Southern accents, so different types of Southern accents. So we did rhotic and non-rhotic Southern accents, and then we also did Irish as well. So those four, and it was so rewarding. So if you get the chance, definitely learn an accent. It's super fun.
Wow, that's really good. At least you got some like actual experience in learning how to do accents in voice
yeah.
acting because I feel that's also important too because you never know what type of project you'll get involved in.
Of course.
And because I know with like I think I kind of heard from Roger that when he was doing Ezio Auditore, because he had to do an accent and he had like an actual forgot the term for the person, but he said she was helping him how to actually say the words correctly in that dialect.
Yeah, because that game takes place, Assassin's Creed 2, and those games where that feature Ezio, they take place in Italy, and it's kind of like, I think it's around some of them take place, I think, around the Renaissance, but he had to like get coaching on doing like an Italian accent that was authentic to the time, and it definitely helps him bring to life Ezio Auditore. So
to accents are well, yeah. Let's try that. And so I ran over to Sammy Grant, and she and I just went over the auditions and script over and over and over again, because accent coach, it's one thing to imitate it, but when you get with a coach, they understand the nuances behind the accent, and you understand the history behind the accent, because every language has different vocal or vowel placements. And so you're thinking about your tongue, you're thinking about your nasopharynx, you're thinking about, okay, an R is what pronounced one way in general American, but if you do it in Irish, it's a very different type of R. And so there's a lot of nuance to it. So if you can get accent coaching, definitely do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, you know, I definitely want to get more training in terms of like accents, because while I have done some accents in the past, I don't necessarily think that they are, you know, 100% accurate, because I haven't really gotten that much training in terms of like actual accent coaching. Like, I've done Russian accents in my interpretation of Nikolai Belinsky, but it's very much trying to imitate what Fred Tatasciore does. And then I've done some Scottish, but it's mainly just based off of some other things that I've seen, or maybe stuff from like How to Train Your Dragon, where they did exaggerated Scottish accents for some of the characters in there. So it's one of those things where, you know, the more authentic you can get with it, the better it is. So I definitely would say I'd love to get more training, especially because there's one accent that I have never been able to even imitate in any way. And that accent for me is the French accent. I cannot do it. I would love to learn how to do it, but it is ridiculously difficult for me to pull it off. And I would love to get some training and some coaching on how to do it, because it would be really cool to be able to say, hey, I can do a French accent. But sadly, I can't, because I have not been able to do that yet. So I would love to learn how to do it. So I'm right there with you, Sydney. Accent coaching sounds like a blast, and I would love to get to do it. And I would recommend everyone who is trying to get for roles, learn some accents, because that can really set you apart.
It really does. You can get roles you won't be able to otherwise. And the nice thing about having a coach too is that you learn how to be sensitive to the accent and not portray people in a negative or stereotyped way.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand the history and the nuances of that accent, and so I highly recommend it. It's like singing. If you can sing, you will get roles you won't be able to otherwise.
Yeah. You know, another thing that kind of recently sprang up is I showed The Princess and the Cowherder to one of my friends, and they were, when they watched it, they said everything seemed great and fantastic, but the one thing they couldn't wrap their head around was Marine's accent. They were like, usually I hear Marine like really exaggerated Australian accent, and I said, well, what Sydney was going for in this instance was authenticity. And so Sydney went out and actually got an Australian voice actress, the lovely Daisy Rose, who some people may know as the pickle lady from Choo Choo Charles. Yes, that pickle lady from Choo Choo Charles.
Oh, very nice.
And she voiced Marine, and she gave a very different take on Marine than a lot of people were expecting, because most times when you hear Marine in comic dubs, she has a very exaggerated voice, because it's an exaggerated pronunciation of the accent. But Daisy was able to just take this character and do like a more natural sounding accent that I thought was just brilliant. And it really helped to elevate the performance, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I was so lucky to grab Daisy, and it's awesome to have Australian representation for an Australian character.
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. And also the fact that I can say that I've voiced in a video with Project SNT and the pickle lady from Choo Choo Charles is probably a highlight of my life.
Oh, for sure. And shout out to Courtney, aka Project SNT. She does a great job.
Oh, she's amazing.
And not only that, but like, shout out all of the people who were involved in that project. Megu and Gab Sam and Drunken Dragon Music, and just Sergeant Gerbil, everybody who was involved in that was so phenomenal at what they did.
Oh, I was so lucky to grab the team that I did. I'm so proud of everyone.
Go support the dub. Go follow every single person involved in it.
Yes, go help everyone.
They're all wonderful people.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, unfortunately, we will have to wrap up this this Q&A.
Oh, this is so fun.
This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of
You're
fun.
telling me we can't go on longer? Ah, man.
No, Silver, I have a meeting to attend to.
You always have a meeting. It's no use. I can't find time to spend with you.
I'm a princess. Of course I have meetings.
I guess I'll go see if the future's ruined again.
Oh, just turn back in one piece. I'm just gonna go with the meeting with Duke such and such.
Oh, that guy. He really grinds my gears.
Why? What's wrong
Reasons.
with him? Reasons.
Just reasons, okay? I'll leave it at that.
Reasons. That's all, the whole explanation?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having us. It was such an honor.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Of course. Like, I want to give like VAs like spotlight, like you two are amazing, especially with your chemistry as Silver and Blaze. And the fact that you guys agreed to this, I was super excited. And when I told Kevin, he immediately jumped at the opportunity.
You didn't have to ask. I was down.
I was
You just say the word, I'll show up again.
It's like I said, if you say Kelp will be there, that's my instant go-to. That's the magic words. Kelp is playing Silver. Great. I'm there.
Is Sydney Blaze? Great, I'm coming. I'm gonna be there.
Like you guys are just amazing to work with. And the fact that the Princess and the Cowherder, you guys did amazing in that. I like whenever I hear Silver and Blaze now, I just hear you too.
Oh.
Like
that's sweet. Thank you.
Of course, like and everything. It was such a blast to do this Q&A. I was not expecting to do a Q&A after Angie. Like so soon. I was like, okay, we're doing
Well, it's
this.
like I always say, expect the unexpected.
Yes.
That and hypothetically.
Silver, keep your voice down.
No!
Yes! Shush!
I, for one, wish he would be quiet. Maybe then I could finally get some sleep.
You're telling me.
Kevin, do you have any final words?
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. We always appreciate having Sydney and Kelp around, and here's to many more for sure. We love working with you and having you part of Sonic Revolution.
Many more projects.
So Kelp, Sydney, would you like to say any final words?
Go ahead, Kelp.
Oh, I was going to let you go first.
Go for it.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me, Leah. It's a blast to get to share some of my story and some of the things that go into making the character voices that I do the way they are. And it's always great to just kind of just talk out a character. I know a lot of people. Whenever they're hearing me in a panel or something, or they're asking me questions, it's typically when I'm voicing this guy or when I'm voicing the coolest hedgehog around. So it's always fun when I can, just talk natural and be myself and, just share things as just who I am as DietDrKelp. So it's always great. And I love the chance to be able to do that. And I love all of my castmates so much. Sydney is a blessing to be working with and always an absolute pleasure. And no matter what, if there is a dub where Sydney is Blaze and I'm asked to be Silver, I will always say yes. So I'm very happy to have been a part of The Princess and the Cowherder. I'm very happy to be a casting director and moderator and voice actor for Revo, and I look forward to many future projects to come. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having me on this panel. I always enjoy these behind the scenes panels, and it's just been such an honor to be part of Revo. It's opened so many doors for me I wouldn't have had otherwise. And of course, it's always a pleasure getting to work with you, Kelp. Anytime I get to tread the boards with you, I am so thrilled and so excited. So thank you for being such the perfect silver to my blaze. And I have to shout out to my team, everybody on my team, for the Princess and the Cowherder, and everybody, Skrillo, Miju, Gabsam, Megu, Daisy Rose, Courtney, Kelp. I'm not forgetting anybody in my Kelp. Sergeant Gerbil,
Francisco.
Yes. Everybody involved with him. Joanna and Pablo, everybody did such a great job. So I have to give a shout out to all of them. But thank you so much, Leah and Kevin and Chaos, for having this opportunity. And it's just such an honor. I never thought I'd be here. So thank you.
Oh, it was our pleasure. Like we want to actually have the audience get to know you guys, of your voice acting experience. So that's why I do these Q&As, so that way they get to know your experiences, and you can give and you gave great advice, to those who are aspiring to be voice actors themselves. So, so yeah, stay tuned for more Q&As. I will be doing more Q&As with voice actors and maybe some artists and content creators down the line. So hope you all have a wonderful day. Leah